In all fairness, I personally think that any person in any community can succeed in mainstream but still have an interesting niche. It's going to take a lot more work, but that might be unfair, that you have to work 100 times harder than the next person in order to have your identity but succeed with them in that same pool. But that's just how the world is at this point with technology. Like that's the trade-off in accessibility, is that you have a 17-year-old who just so happened to absolutely love AOT, and over the last 10 years he's been talking about AOT, and he's been able to capitalize and make it into a fully fledged career into his 20s, and that's all he's ever focused on is AOT and other popular series. But then you have someone else who, whether they're the same age, younger or older, they cannot compete with that person. And the reason why they can't compete is because they may not like AOT, and they're not going to force themselves to not only watch a show over hours, but read the manga and then create videos. They don't want to waste their time. But if they don't do that, that's an entire demographic that's never going to come to their channel. Their channel will never get that growth. It's never going to get recommended on similar videos. And then they may never be able to grow their channel and make YouTube into a full-time, because they now have to get a real job to supplement their YouTube career. And then YouTube ends up becoming a hobby. And the 8 videos a month now becomes 4 videos a month, which maybe becomes 1 video every other month. It's unfair and it's cyclical. And I see it in my job. I've seen a lot of great content creators who fell off because they just couldn't keep up with the mainstream, and they couldn't force themselves to do something that they didn't love. I don't like that direction of anime. It's forcing you into a direction where if you do not accept the algorithm, if you do not accept what we tell you is good, then you will not succeed. And and that's sickening. Like I quite frankly don't know how we go around changing that, but there has to be something. I don't know if it's just communication, collaboration, what we need to do with smaller creators. I've had this conversation with other Anitubers on my channel. What's the next step to be successful as an Anituber? Because there is a huge quagmire between 100K to the million plus Anitubers. There's no reason why other communities, which are much more niche than anime, have people who are succeeding in the hundreds of thousands and they're not forced to do as much mainstream stuff. Sorry for this little bit of a rant, but like
I completely with you.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, right, but here's the thing. YouTube isn't about making sense, it's about making money. And that's all it's, and you know, I made this statement on my Twitter a couple of days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. Time is a very fleeting concept to me lately, but talking about Star Wars, and you know, I've read somebody's like looking back on the Last Jedi and the way that Rise of Skywalker ended up being, and like, why couldn't we have had Finn and Poe working on a stormtrooper rebellion instead of, you know, Rey fighting, you know, Magic Wizard Man for the umpteenth time sort of thing? And it's just like, well, because that won't play in China. And the push to make everything a gray homogenous slurry in our entertainment venues is, you know, it's killing the artistic medium of our entertainment, because everything has to be a million seller. And I am quoting, paraphrasing, stealing outright maybe from one James Stephanie Sterling when I say this. And if you haven't seen their YouTube channel, I highly recommend it, because they're really on top of all this. Like they've been in games journalism for a long time, and what they come up with is game publishers don't want to make some of the money, they want to make all of the money. And if they're not making all of the money, then what they're doing is a failure. And in the same way, so too is the rest of the entertainment industry. They don't want to make something that is successful for a small group of people. They want to make something that is successful with literally everyone. And as anybody who has people pleaser tendencies can tell you, you don't get anywhere with that. So yeah, like with Anitube especially, it's, do I play to people who like the same stuff I do, where I'm preaching to the choir? Do I try and play to, you know, these kids who have seen Attack on Titan didn't know you could make a human body explode like that in animation. It was like, hey kids, what's up? We're going to talk about the same crap I've been talking. Like, I feel bad for Thu, Mother's Basement. Like, gee, I bet you can't wait to do your 111th video on how much Sword Art Online sucks.